Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking the true, profound meaning behind the art of letting go. If you're constantly feeling mentally exhausted, chained down by past regrets, or literally paralyzed by what might happen tomorrow, we're going to completely flip the way you look at that mental exhaustion. By the end of this, you'll see that letting go isn't just passively throwing in the towel. No way. It's an incredibly empowering, active skill where you redirect your focus. Okay, let's kick things off with a slightly disruptive question. What if the piece we're all constantly chasing isn't actually found in holding on or micromanaging every outcome, but in the exact opposite? We spend so much of our energy gripping the reins of our lives super tightly because we think control equals safety and happiness, but as we're going to see, that tight grip, it's exactly what's holding us back. Here's our roadmap to reclaiming that peace. First, we'll look at the illusion of control. Then, we'll unpack your emotional baggage, dive into the actual skill of letting go, and finally wrap up with choosing peace and the present. All right, section 1, the illusion of control and why we overthink. Let's look at that chaotic mental traffic in our heads. Overthinking actually isn't a personality trait. It's a breakable habit, and it's largely driven by our brain's evolutionary negativity bias. Just imagine your mind as a perfectly smooth, quiet lake. The surface is like glass, right? But then you toss in a pebble, just a simple what if or a tiny doubt, and the ripples spread. Then you throw another one and another. Before you know it, that beautifully calm water is just absolute chaos. That is literally what overthinking does to us. It's this endless loop that steals your peace and drains your energy. Look at the deep contrast here. We have this really flawed belief that analyzing everything guarantees our safety. But the reality of surrender is that no amount of over-preparing can actually guarantee certainty. We overthink because we desperately want to avoid mistakes, We think, if I just look at this from every conceivable angle, I can control the outcome. But in reality, it just completely strips away our ability to respond with any real clarity. We fall right into a trap. Our survival-wired brains are constantly scanning for emotional threats, like rejection or embarrassment, and they trick us into believing we can predict and prevent every single bad outcome. But here's the thing. True clarity and success, they only happen when we are fully present, not when we're lost in the made-up catastrophes of tomorrow. Life rewards presence. So the absolutely crucial point here is breaking that loop. Take Dev, an entrepreneur mentioned in our source material. He researched a business idea for months, drafted 10 different business plans, but never actually launched. He was basically failing privately by doing nothing. To break out of that kind of paralysis, you need motion. First, set a firm decision deadline. Second, limit your information intake. Seriously, stop reading those 100 reviews. And third, take messy, imperfect action. Progress begins exactly where perfection ends. Moving on to section 2, unpacking your emotional baggage and dealing with the weight of the past. We often walk around completely unconscious of the fact that we're wearing this incredibly heavy backpack. It's stuffed full of past grief, anger, heartbreak, and betrayal. Every single time we've been hurt, boom, another brick gets added. We wear it like armor, thinking it protects us from future harm. But we don't even realize it's actually bending our backs, draining our joy, and keeping us completely trapped in the past. Now notice how guilt and shame operate in completely different ways inside that backpack. Guilt tells you that you did something bad. It's about your actions, which honestly can actually lead to positive growth. But shame falsely screams that you are bad. It attacks your identity. It acts as this paralyzing weight that tries to convince you you're just unworthy of peace. To actually empty that backpack, you have to take an emotional inventory. Take Priya, for example. She held on to this immense guilt over walking away from a past relationship until she finally realized her guilt was really just societal conditioning. She wasn't selfish, she was brave. By sitting quietly and taking stock of things, you can start that process of emotional decluttering. Ask yourself, honestly, what pain am I carrying? Whose voice lives in my head? What moment from the past still stings? And what needs to be said? Because let's face it, you can't heal what you refuse to face. All right, section 3, the skill of letting go and redirecting your focus. This is where we reframe letting go from a passive active surrender into a very active, empowering skill. This definition right here, it's absolutely everything. Letting go is not about forgetting or pretending bad things didn't happen, not at all. It is the conscious, highly trainable skill of shifting your energy away from external chaos, like other people, the past, or the unpredictable future, and focusing entirely on your own internal response. It is making that deliberate shift from desperately seeking control to actively choosing peace. We really have to learn how to tame that inner critic that constantly fights against letting go, and you do it by flipping harsh perfectionist judgments into compassionate solution-seeking curiosity. So instead of beating yourself up and saying, ugh, why did I say that? I sounded so stupid, you ask, what can I actually learn from that conversation? Curiosity completely disarms the shame that your inner critic relies on. Consider Sarah, a marketing manager from our source material. She used to violently spiral over minor email typos, but she started using this exact mantra. That's just a thought, not a fact. Doing that created immediate space between herself and her fears. By simply reminding herself that her anxieties were just thoughts and not absolute truths, she proved that you are the observer of your thoughts, not the thoughts themselves, and it gave her immense freedom. So how do we actively practice this skill? You can use the thought dump method. Every morning or night, just get it all out. First, grab a notebook. Second, set a 5-minute timer. Third, write down every single racing thought without editing yourself. Just let it flow. And finally, close the notebook. This acts exactly like swiping up and closing all the background apps on your smartphone. It frees up processing power and clears mental space. You aren't trying to solve the problems here. You're literally just getting them out of your head.
And that brings us to Section 4, Choosing Peace and Present, the power of now.
If we want to truly live in the present, we have to dismantle the prison of perfectionism. Take Mark, an engineer who used to rewrite emails like 3 times before sending them because he was terrified of sounding dumb. He started snapping a rubber band on his wrist to actually catch his negative self-talk and then replace that self-doubt with empowering thoughts of progress. Because true success, it isn't about being flawless. It's about authentic, messy, continuous progress. Whenever you feel yourself starting to spiral backward into past regrets or forward into future anxieties, kind of like Zoe did with her severe career worry, you have to anchor your mind back to the only time that actually exists, right now. Ground yourself. Focus on your breath. Observe and name the things you can see and hear around you, and practice a little gratitude. Doing this pulls you right out of the mental chaos and directly back into your physical reality. Letting go of that illusion of control and stepping bravely into the unknown allows you to finally flow with the river of life. You stop fighting the current, and you choose clarity over clutter. The truth is, you simply don't have to live in that noisy, exhausting mental traffic anymore. As we wrap up this explainer, I want you to really look at your own heavy backpack. Think about the peace, the clarity, and the absolute freedom that is waiting for you on the other side of surrender. Remember, healing is a process, not a destination. So, I'll leave you with this one final question to think about. What weight are you going to drop today? Take a deep breath, let it go, and step boldly forward. Your peace is waiting for you.